Superintendent of Schools for the Township of Teaneck, and I want to thank all our students for signing up for our student town hall. I want to be very clear that tonight is really geared for students, and so I do see some parents who are logged on here, and I would ask those students, to remain on. For those parents who we are cross-referencing names, et cetera, to please hold off because there'll be another opportunity later on in the course of the next 2 weeks for us to have a conversation. But tonight's venue is designed to allow students the opportunity to ask questions in reference to the opening of our school year. As some of our students know, we've gone through a transformation over the course of the last few weeks. As of last week, Monday and Tuesday, we had a hybrid model. Effective Wednesday, the Board of Education decided to move from a hybrid model to a virtual model for instruction. And if there are questions regarding that, we can have that conversation. Tonight is an opportunity for you all to ask questions of me and our team, if they are on board, to be able to ask or answer any questions you may have relative to your school year, your instructional experience, and how you move forward. To the bottom of your screen, you should see a section that says Q&A. In that section, you'll be allowed to ask questions that you would like to be answered of me this evening. We have roughly about an hour and 15 minutes together in the time that we will have. And so I will ask you to please pose your question. I will say, as I've said in other venues, if indeed your question is repetitive or it has been asked before, I may skip over it because it may have been answered already as we move forward. Our goal tonight to try to answer as many questions as possible. I acknowledge that where we are right now is an impossible situation. For those students who are incoming seniors, I know there are a lot of questions regarding your senior year, regarding your senior experience. For the underclassmen who might be at the high school or even at our middle schools for that matter, there may be other concerns relative to how instruction continues as we move forward. I will do my best tonight to answer those questions. And so the questions that I do have answers to, I will most certainly answer. For those that I may not, I may ask or indicate that I may answer them at a different point in time as we move forward. I will tell you that the times we're living in are tough. And I got to tell you, for the young people who are watching this video or this Zoom call, you're probably toughest young folks in the history of our country. And I will tell you that I celebrate you. I appreciate you, but I don't underscore how tough this might be. The ability to not be connected with your friends, with your loved ones, to have so much ambiguity with regard to what is happening in our country right now, and how you maintain the sense of connection as we move forward, especially if you're a high school senior. So I will ask you, if you have questions, you go to see the Q&A section. Feel free, effective now in this moment, to start populating your questions relative to the Q&A. I will do the best I can to get through every single question as we move forward. If we finish ahead of schedule, that'll be okay. If it takes us to the end of time, the next hour and 15, 20 minutes or so, we'll go to 7:30 if needed. But I'll do my best to answer your questions, and I'll do my best to answer your questions honestly. And I will be very frank with you. If I have those answers, I will certainly do so. If I don't, I will tell you. And I'll tell you when we will have those answers to you. I will say that the Teaneck Board of Education, as well as our administration, has decided to move to a virtual format for a multitude of different reasons. One of which has been the concerns of many of our teachers and faculty and staff with regard to some of the individuals who have pre-existing conditions relative that might be spurred by COVID-19. In addition to that, we recognize that there are other towns in our vicinity who, while Teaneck hovers around the 1% contraction rate, other towns are hovering around 3%. And so we have taken that into account. And even frankly, I got to be honest with you, the ability for us to be able to deliver instruction in a meaningful way that keeps people safe. I got to tell you, as your superintendent of schools, as a father, as a brother, as a friend, as a son, I don't know how I would live with myself if someone contracted COVID-19 and did not survive. I will tell you all that I have lost a close personal friend and a fraternity brother of mine. One of my best friends lost her dad during the course of this process. And so while I know there are some people who believe that we should be able to come right back in and deal with what we got to deal with, um, there is no coming back from this virus if it affects you, and it affects you fatally. And so I have to live with those decisions. And so I tell folks quite honestly, those are the decisions that weigh in my mind as we move forward. So again, please feel free to populate your questions. We'll do the best we can to answer them as we move forward. Mohammed Saleh, who's our Director of Technology, Mo, is here to assist if there are any questions or kind of technical issues as we move forward. Mo, I see the questions starting to populate as we move forward. So I'm going to move to the very first question as we move on, and as we start. All right. Um, and again, just so for the purpose of this meeting, I probably, as I've done in other meetings, I will not use students' names. Your anonymity means a great deal to me. So I'm going to ask you all to, just if you want to say anonymous or use your name, you can, but I will not be using names as we move forward. All right. So the first question tonight is, will there be any winter sports this year? That's a great question, and thank you so much for asking that question. As of this point in time, fall sports have been put on hold. We are waiting to see where we are in winter and spring. Because fall and winter fall so close together, I am waiting to see exactly where we are with regard to the final decision for for winter sports. Fall sports, we have until the 28th to make a decision on, but we have made a decision. There will not be any fall sports offered this year. I will say that that decision has been very difficult to make. I know for some of our fall athletes, you all have worked incredibly hard over the course of the last 3 or 4 years period to prove that you are certainly an exceptional student, an exceptional student athlete. And so I say to you, I apologize for where we are, but there are a lot of concerns relative to health and safety reasons relative to COVID-19 and as we move forward. The next question I have is, how will we be separated for hybrid learning? Will it go by grade or last name? Right now, we are not going to a hybrid learning platform. We are going to a virtual learning platform. But if we indeed return, in a hybrid learning platform, as of now, we are planning to work with students via last name as best as possible, depending on where students fall. There's a question that says, will live stream classes be recorded in the event we are not on that day at school? If we lose power in our house during the time or we are in school, do we get marked absent or can we make it up? And thank you, person who asked that question, who starts with an O. I appreciate the question. So as it stands now, the classes are not being live streamed or not being recorded for that matter. The classes will be live, but they will not be recorded. I think you posed a really good question relative to if there's an issue in someone's home or someone loses power. Last night, there was a thunderstorm, and last night we lost power in my home for that matter from the hours probably about 1 o'clock to about 4 o'clock. We will have that conversation with our administration to figure out how best we might be able to support students if indeed a class is indeed kicked off or someone is kicked off because of the weather. So we'll certainly get back to students and parents relative to where we are with that. Actually, just bear with me. I'm trying to read the questions ahead of time. This student says they're in the fourth grade at one of our elementary schools. They say if the virus slows down, do you think we can go back to school hybrid? Will there be a test? Great question. Uh, I am hoping, honestly, that we can return in person to class or instruction. I will tell you that until this virus slows down, that remains very difficult. At this point in time, we are not requiring a test for students, and the model we had prior to, and as the model we're requiring as we move forward. Next question: will sophomores and juniors at the high school be doing the PSAT? As it stands now, we are working to administer the PSAT and other standardized tests that will require for higher education. We're working with our guidance department to try to identify manners and ways in which we can provide these tests to you in a coherent and consistent basis. I will tell you, for our juniors and seniors, we are offering SAT preparation courses this year. If you're a student on free and reduced lunch, those courses are free. If you're a student who's not, those courses are about $20 to be able to register. The courses cost us as a district close to $1,000. And so we are encouraging as many students as possible to register for these classes as we move forward. There's a question is how do we select our classes? Great question. If you're a high school student and a middle school student for that matter, that should have been done already. The courses are selected the year prior to. If you have a question relative to the classes you are selected or the classes that may be assigned to you, which should be assigned by this Friday, given your request, reach out to your school-based guidance counselor. Oh, great question. There's a question that says, if our internet goes out for about a week, what course of action do we have? We as a district have the ability to give you as students wireless MiFi cards or tablets that you can utilize. And so if you find yourself and your family without internet from, I would say, more than 2 or 3 days, please come to our Chrome Depot, which is at the high school. Request to have a wireless MiFi card established to you, and we'll be able to provide you with quality internet available on that moment. Here's a question: is virtual the only form of schooling we'll be having? The answer to that is yes at this point in time for the first marking period. Oh boy, this is a great question. If I've already had COVID and have antibodies, why can I not be in school? What about teachers with antibodies? So there is conflicting research with regard to the ability of individuals who have antibodies and whether or not they have an innate immunity or not, for that matter. And because there is not a definitive answer for that, we have erred on the side of caution as we move forward. When will we receive our class schedule? The answer to that is this Friday. We are targeting to release schedules for students with a date of no longer than Monday. And so I would say 90% of our district will receive their class schedules on Friday. We are still working on our pre-K schedule, which may indeed take until Monday for us to release. Oh boy, great question. There's a student who asked, why aren't we going to be able to use our lockers? The CDC recommends that students limit the level of exposure in hallways and other common spaces. I don't know about you all, but I have been in plenty of our schools who have lockers, and when students are at their lockers, they are not just changing their books and their book bags out, but lockers are also a gathering place for students. And so we are not allowing the opportunity for students to use lockers in an effort to limit congregation and limit the amount of students who are fraternizing in hallways. Hmm. There's a question that says, when do you think we'll open again? Honest to God, I wish I had the answer to that. It depends a great deal on what will happen in our country. It depends on what's happening in our state and what's happening in our township. I wish we could open tomorrow, and I mean that sincerely. I wish we could begin school, that you all were in front of teachers, that I could be in your classroom to observe a lesson. I miss that. I miss you all. I miss our teachers. But given the realities of where we are with COVID-19, we're going to take it by marking period by marking period basis. The question is, do we have to give Chromebooks back? No. If you have a Chromebook from last year, you will keep it as we move forward for next year. There's a question that says, will there be after school care and care offered for working parents? We are working on a option for parents during the day, and after school, we'll be releasing that information this Friday. There's another question, will there be state tests? Good question. We do not know. The state of New Jersey decides that, and they have not made that decision yet. So, this is a repeating question. So, I want to be clear. If questions begin to be repeated, I may skip them. But this question is: Are students going to have live instruction with each teacher or subject? That answer is yes. We will be moving to a live instructional model in which teachers will be working with students very much like I am now with you all as we are talking live. Again, some of these questions are repeated. There's a question that as a freshman who's never been in a public school, will there be a chance to meet your students in person? Unfortunately, not at this point in time. There's a question that says, will teachers be in the classroom, I believe, teaching virtually, but live? If not, why not? At this point in time, we are leaving that option open to our teachers to be able to come into our schools and teach from their classroom or to teach from their homes. We want to give teachers the opportunity to be able to do so. This summer, we had a summer bridge program in which all of our teachers taught from their homes, and the experience of our students and the feedback from our parents was absolutely positive. So we know our teachers have the ability to teach from home, but we also recognize that sometimes there might be distractions at home for you and for teachers. And so we are allowing teachers the opportunity to come in district on a scheduling basis to be able to do so. Question, how will we get our Google Classroom codes? You will get your Google Classroom codes from your classroom teacher. This Friday, as I indicated before, your schedule will be released. Over the course of the next week, moving into the week after, you'll be getting emails from your teachers in reference to your Google Classroom codes. We encourage you to check your emails to be able to know the codes. This is a high school question. It's a great question. What is the requirement for community service hours this year for high school students? If so, how will that work during this pandemic? We are still working that out. So that's an answer I do not have an answer to. We are working through exactly what that may look like, whether or not there is a virtual option or we waive the option altogether. Our administration will be back to our high school seniors over the course of the next 2 months as we figure that process through. Question, will there be an orientation for incoming freshmen to acclimate to the high school experience? There is an orientation that is being scheduled right now in a virtual experience. You should have received information on that. If you have questions regarding that, please reach out to the high school. Again, some of these questions have been repeated or asked already. Someone asked about standardized tests. Again, we're still waiting on the state to let us know. Hmm. There's a question that says, what will happen to clubs? Will they be virtual? At this point in time, we are leaving the decision for clubs and organizations to be virtual up to the high school principals. Students and staff who are looking to have clubs and organizations function should reach out to their principals. The principals will then communicate with our office to identify a staff member who may be someone to be able to facilitate the program in a virtual environment. And so if you're a student or staff member who has a question about a club, please reach out to your high school principal. There's a question that says, have we been getting schools ready in anticipation of a return? The answer to that is yes. We continue to make sure our schools are clean, prepared, and ready if in the event in the second marking period, we have to bring students back. Hmm. This question says, with virtual learning going on, what are the rules with camera and microphone being off or on? We're actually releasing some guidance for students and parents and staff next week. And so just to know that we are preparing a document that indicates what students should have on, what faculty should have on, and what parents should know as we move forward. There's a question that says, how will hands-on classes such as culinary work? It will work in a virtual setting. And so those teachers will work with those students to try to facilitate as best as they can an experience in a virtual setting. Again, this is just for the first marking period. It may extend longer or it may not. There's a question that says, are August SATs canceled? The College Board says yes, but Teaneck High School has not given word. I've received word today that the August testing dates for SATs are indeed canceled. We are working on trying to figure out a different location for you all as we move forward, but as you will probably find out, many districts are canceling the SATs as we move forward. But I will ask Ms. Golden Cooper, who is our Director of School Counseling and Guidance, to be able to provide more information for our juniors and seniors as we move forward. All these are great questions. I keep saying it, but this is an honest one. I appreciate the student who shared it. It says, after school, I know kids like to hang out in front of the school. Is this a rule that we have to leave school right away, or can we socialize after in front like before? Unfortunately, we will be remote or remote learning, so there probably won't be many students congregating as of now. But as it stands, relative to social distancing, we are going to be asking students to dismiss effective at the dismissal of school day, if indeed we do return. It encourages social distancing. Unfortunately, we cannot have you all congregating together. Mm. This student says, I'm a fifth grader at BF. Will there be a virtual tour to get familiarized with the school? The answer is yes. Your school principals will be working with you all to talk through different components of the class that you will have and the transition that you have as well. I apologize. I've answered 50 questions or so. My mouth is getting very dry, so I have water here. I may take a break to drink in a second. There's a question that says, what about drama or chorus? Are they cut entirely? No. Every single student in our district will follow their specific school schedule. So if you have art, if you have drama, if you have chorus, you will follow that schedule. The challenge will be that class being held in the virtual setting. Again, Skyward will be operational effective Friday for schedules. Schedule. How long? The high school schedule will be released on Friday. Question, someone said my 10-year-old doesn't have a Chromebook. How will I obtain one for her? Next week, this Friday, actually, you'll be receiving information with regard to the Chromebook pickup for those who do not have Chromebooks or need to return Chromebooks. Their Chromebooks are broken, or for those who need a wireless MiFi tablets. You'll receive that information on Friday. Scheduling. Scheduling. There's a question that says, what will happen to the winter and spring concerts? We are waiting to see just where we are as a country and as a township relative to those. As of now, those sports and concerts are on the books, but we will wait to see where we are with regard to that. There are questions with regard to high school and middle school respective staff. There are town halls coming up for those respective schools. And I would ask you to please ask those specific questions to those individual principals then. Answer the sports question. There's a question that says, what exactly needs to happen in order for us to be able to go back to school? Um, oh man, that's a great question. There are a series of answers that I can share to that, and I would just give you a few of my opinions. I need the confidence of our school physicians to be able to do that. I need the confidence of our teachers union, of our parents by a large majority, of the infection rate relative to our township and the surrounding township, just to name a few, for us to be able to return to a in-person instruction. There's a question that says, can we change our classes this year? I do believe you certainly can, depending on availability of classes and scheduling. You need to reach out to your school guidance counselor to do so. Again, my sister and I go to BF 17. Don't understand that. You've answered the community service question. There's a question from Les that says, who are the deans at the high school? That'll be answered by Mr. Valdez, who is the high school principal, who will be sharing that information next week. There's a question that says, will codes for our Google Classroom come the same day as our schedule? They will come after your schedule. Your teachers are being notified at the same time, give or take, that you're being notified relative to your school schedule. So it will take time to come up with the codes, but you'll be receiving that before we begin school. Continue to move forward. Keep going. All the same questions. Will textbook be digital, or will they be distributed prior to the reopening of our virtual format? So, as we move forward, we are looking at providing as many resources for students as possible. And where we can be digital to be able to provide those resources, we most certainly will. But for those students who may require physical textbooks, our teachers and principals will be in communication with parents and students to let them know when and where they can pick up those textbooks if needed. There's a question about why can't clubs run virtually. I've indicated that clubs can, but that requests have to come through the building principal. Yeah. Mm. So the question is the district fixing the AC ventilation system and installing HEPA filters so we can go back? We are not. Our air conditioning and ventilation systems are indeed designed to do what we just shared, ventilate our environments. They are not HEPA filters. We are not purchasing HEPA filters to be able to do so. It is not a requirement of the CDC or the Department of Education to do so. But we are providing as many opportunities to be able to open different classroom windows to be able to allow for the filtering of air if in the event we return back to school. Just want to be clear at this point in time, it's 6:35. I've answered 100 questions so far. There are about another 110 as we move forward. Question, will be able to return to school if a vaccine is created? I would most certainly hope so. It would depend on the frequency of the sharing of the vaccine and how many folks will have it. I think we've answered that. Will there be a dress code for online classes? Unfortunately, not at this point in time. but I would encourage students, please do not show up in your pajamas. While I'm sure you're comfortable, as you all probably will see, this is my uniform from every day to day. I have my Teaneck t-shirt on, but yeah, we ask students and parents and staff just to use good judgment as we move forward. We answered that question. There's a question, do we have summer work? There will be a summer experience, summer program at the end of next year, summer of 2020, 2021. We are currently working on that program to at least allow students the opportunity to take advantage of it. There's a really good question. It says, why does the situation in the country affect the ability of our district to have in-person learning? Our concern should be with our county in which new infections, hospitalizations are low. And that is a great question. But unfortunately, our country does not have a national travel ban. And so individuals are allowed to travel to and from, states who may have higher numbers of COVID-19. And as we know, this is a very highly contagious virus. And at any given time, someone can move to a state or travel to a state that has a higher number and come back. And that can spawn a spread or an infection that may be higher than what we need to be able to move forward. There's a question that says, will there be any updates that need to be done to the Chromebook? Mohammed, correct me if I'm wrong, but Chrome, given the fact that it's a Google device, automatically does updates. So as long as you're connected to the internet, that should do it already. Am I correct?
You're absolutely right. And we're also able to push whatever applications or programs we may need. As long as the Chromebook's connected to the internet, no matter where it is, we're able to do whatever we need to do.
Thank you. See, I'm not even a tech guy and I know the answer. Um, appreciate it, buddy. Uh, Next question. What do I have? So there's a question with regard to special services. We'll be following a student's IEP to ensure that we are compliant with IEPs as we move forward, whether those are related services, whether those are one-on-one paras, whether those are group paras for that matter. We intend, whether virtual or in person, to be compliant with all IEPs in the district. There's a question in reference to, will hours be the same? I would assume that that is the scheduling hours for classes. We will follow our school-based schedules. Again, schedule will be released this Friday for all parents and students as we move forward. Someone asked, my Chromebook is working slow. Can I change it? Yes. We'll be releasing this Friday information on how to exchange your Chromebook. Bring it to our Chrome Depot, and we'll be able to give you a new Chromebook. So I'm going through several questions, but a lot have been asked already. That's why I keep moving it to your ends. Question indicates, if the year ends and we are still virtual with classes for 8th graders, how are we supposed to send the middle school Chromebooks back? You will not. You will keep your Chromebook as you move to the high school. And if you need to replace the Chromebook, you can indeed do so. All right. Answer that for freshmen. So great question. For freshmen who've never had a Skyward account, how will we access our schedules for our teachers? On Friday, we'll actually be releasing a tutorial and a video tutorial for how families will be able to access their Skyward account. Mo, give me a thumbs up on that to make sure we're still on the same page with regard to that. Yep. And so for those families and parents who've never accessed Skyward, you will certainly have access and resources for how you access your schedule on Skyward. Mo?
It's right, and we're also currently working at getting it in a Spanish version as well.
Thank you so much. It'll be in multilingual. Great question. I just want to make sure I clarify. The person says, what's the reason for going remote? I thought we said safe. We had a safe plan for fulfilling state guidelines. What made it safe and what are we doing to make it safe? Governor Murphy said remote option was for districts to get themselves safe. Why are you saying your plan doesn't plan on opening indefinitely? I never said that. If you can go back and rewind yourself, I have some, be very frank, buzzwords here that I am not using. And I never said the words that we are not opening indefinitely. I said the first marking period. And so we will review the first marking period as we move forward to evaluate how we move with the second, third, and fourth marking period. Is the curriculum going to change because we are learning virtually? The answer to that is no. The last three questions have been about schedules. Again, schedules will be released this Friday. There's a question from a student who's a senior at the high school. It says, as a senior, we receive partial help from our counselors to apply for colleges. Will we still have the opportunity virtually? The answer is yes. Your counselors will be helping you even from a virtual context. There's a question that says, is there a deadline for new enrollments, middle school, high school? This individual wants to transfer in district. There is not a deadline. If you're a Teaneck resident, you have the ability to register at any given time. It just depends on how the child will fit in our academic system. I would say please register your child as soon as possible. Please look at our registration department and reach out to them. There's a question that says, can I use my personal MacBook or do I have to use a Chromebook? Our Chromebooks are our preferred choice of device utilized, but the links that our faculty will be sending can be used on any device. All right. Again, this is another question. It's been repeated, but I haven't answered it probably about 30 questions or so. It says, Dr. Irving, I hope you're having a great summer. Thank you. Is there any way for the students can do a drive-by meet and greet for the students to meet their teachers? At this point in time, we have not scheduled that. I will certainly have that conversation with our teachers to see if that's a possibility. The scheduling of that may be difficult as we move forward, but we'll explore that. We've answered the question about PSATs and SATs. For art and other specials that require supplies, will that be provided by the school? Yes, that will be. We had instrumental courses being offered last year. We provided our respective instrumental instruments as we move forward. Discuss that, how to get a Chromebook. We will be using Google Classroom or Google Meet as our platform for learning. There's a question that says, will sports be open in the long-term future? It's my hope that sports will be available potentially in the winter, but hopefully in the spring. And again, it will depend on just where we are with regard to our country, our county, and our township. Hmm. It's a great question that says, if malls and stores are opening, why can't schools? Malls and stores are opening. They're opening in a very socially distant fashion. They're opening in a limited fashion. Um, Restaurants and eateries are not opening indoors. They're opening only outdoors, but yet schools are being asked to open indoors relative to feeding students. There are many contradictions relative to our opening and our opening plan. And so I ask for your indulgence as we try to figure out what is the best mechanism as we move forward. Just a question to ask, is there still a supply list for the respective grade levels? There will be, and your principal will be releasing those supply lists. Just trying to read this one. Oh. There's a question that says, I have a school Chromebook that I am not using anymore. How do I return it? You'll return that Chromebook by returning it to the Chrome Depot. You'll be receiving information this week on where to return it or pick up new Chromebooks. When do we start school? The first day of school is September 8th. Again, a lot of these questions have been repeated and asked. Will answer students. Mm. This is a good question. It says, why can't small special education classes be in session? Why is this an all or nothing proposition? Um, I want to thank you for asking that question. That's a great question. We have gone back and forth on how to service our students with special needs. And I think as I try to answer that question honestly with you tonight, the challenge we have found ourselves is, if there is indeed a health and safety reason for why we are not requiring students and staff to come in, albeit there may be after school services or opt-in day services that families can opt into. The feeling is that we do not want to expose families and children and staff and parents potentially to an outbreak of COVID. And so, as it stands now, we are working remotely. It may change, and it may change after the first marking period. There's a question that says, I'm a 10th grader at Teaneck High School. Will Google Meet be live with teachers full period? The answer is yes. It's a question that says, hope you're having a restful summer. Is there any way students can have a drive-by meet and greet with students to meet their teachers? We will certainly have that conversation, but as I continue to talk, I'm just kind of rationalizing how we would even do that. And that unto itself is difficult, but I promise you, my chief of staff, Ms. Corallo, who's done a great job in organizing all these respective town hall to taking notes. We'll explore this and see if it can be a possibility. Just to be clear, it's 6:51. We have until 7:30. I've answered 180 questions thus far. There are still 96. I'm trying my best to keep moving and try to answer as many questions as possible. Again, as we move forward, this question is in regard to just being contacted by your principals or teachers. Your principals or teachers will be reaching out to you this week with regard to how you move forward. There's a question that said, how are we handling transfer students? I would need more context for this, but to be honest, by the time you ask, we'll be done because I still have 90 questions to get through. But just to try to figure out how best to answer this question, how are we handling transfer students? We'll be handling transfer students in the same way we would handle transfer students if they were coming in district and were live in front of us. Again, schedules will be released this Friday. Will there be dress codes? I assume if we're meeting virtually. At this point in time, we've not just decided that. I would ask students and parents to use their best judgment and to be appropriate as we're showing up virtually. Parent-teacher conferences, good question, will be scheduled, normally as they would be. They will just be virtual for this year. What if I forget my Skyward account and password? Mohammed, all the instructional stuff I kind of know. The technical stuff, I do not know 100%. Stop laughing at me. So I'm going to turn over to you. If someone forgets their Skyward login and password, how would they go about that?
I believe there is a forgot password link at the login. If that doesn't,
all right,
if,
I apologize. I should have known that. Okay.
If that doesn't work, you can always reach out to your school, and the schools can reset your accounts for you.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. You all can always tell a tech guy who doesn't know a tech guy, and so I appreciate Mohammed because you're turning red as you're talking about me in your head. I can see it. I can see it happening. I appreciate that. How would our teachers see students' summer assignments? Those teachers who have facilitated the summer bridge program have already communicated with your teachers who will be enrolling you or working with you as you move forward. Wow, this is a really good question that says, I have a younger sibling that I've helped with virtual learning from March to June. Um, how would the district schedule out time for families with students in different grades and make it easier for the older ones to focus on school? Our hope is that through the live instruction format, that will allow for all students to be able to answer questions, or be able to answer questions and answer their classes in a timely manner. That puts the onus back on our teachers to work with our students as we move forward. It's a question that keeps asking about the high school peer leadership program. This is a high school specific question, and I would ask you all to ask that question of the high school principal, Mr. Valdez, next week. There's a question that says, if we have an appointment and will we need to let the school know in order to be considered absent? That is correct. The same protocol that you would follow if your student was not present in school and they would not be present in a virtual learning environment, you would need to contact your school to let them know your student will be absent. So good question that says, what is happening to the after-school tutoring? We are offering this year the ability for students and parents to take advantage of after-school evening tutoring. This will be free of charge for our parents and our students. Our teachers will be conducting those services. More information will be released on that as we move forward. There's a question that says, on a school day, will we have breaks like lunchtime? Yes, you will have a lunchtime, and you'll have a roughly 3 to 5 minute break depending on your grade level. There's a question that says, why haven't I received information from USPS relative to school reopening? That is because we've moved primarily to a fully virtual format. And so I'll ask all students and parents to continually check their emails for updates relative to school and school opening. Is it mandatory to keep student cameras on? Uh, it is not mandatory at this point in time. We are highly requiring it. If a parent decides to opt out of having a student's camera on, there'll be an opportunity for parents to be able to do so as we move forward. Uh, Terry, I know you're listening. There are lots of questions with regard to the summer bridge program and handing in assignments. Can we just reach out to Ms. Dent and Ms. Johnson just to be clear with parents how parents can hand in assignments from the summer bridge program? I'm getting a lot of questions about summer work and summer summer grading. There's a question that says, will the SAT be held at the high school? The August SAT has been canceled at the high school. Thank you, Terry. Mm. Ooh, this is a really good question. Uh, I'm not going to share the preface because it's kind of personal, but it says, given the information they shared, how can school reopen until rates in the country are low in its entirety? And I think that's the conundrum we find ourselves in, is that as a nation, we do not have a nationwide ban on travel. We do not have a nationwide ban on or wearing of mask. We do not have a nationwide ban on contact tracing. And that's what makes all of this too difficult. I will tell you, again, as the chief school administrator, superintendent of schools, I want students to come back. I was so ready for students to come back. But I will tell you, if one of you who are listening to this call contracts COVID-19 and unfortunately succumbs to it, I don't know how I would live with myself. Unfortunately, I've lost two people in my life to COVID this year. Two individuals who are folks of color, who are in high areas relative to COVID contraction. And I believe it is difficult, extremely difficult, when you're someone who experiences the effects of COVID-19 and losing people who you love. And so, for a whole host of reasons, including what I've shared, those are some of the reasons why I think we are moving cautiously for the first market period. Oh boy, there's a good question. Oh, this hit me hard. Will we will will we be having a prom? I would hope so for our senior students, for our eighth graders who are moving forward. Um, I would hope by the springtime that there may be a vaccine or some mechanism by which we can at least give you the opportunity to kind of celebrate the end of the year. We will have to play this by ear collaboratively and together as we move forward. Next question. Will we have a graduation? Same thing. I hope so. Again, a lot will determine what will happen with regard to the social distancing guidelines for where the governor's office is and how we will move forward. Prom is a very important issue. I see a lot of folks posting about it. Graduation as well. Will there be online workshops or online help offered to seniors for college applications? The answer is yes. Ms. Golden Cooper is working extremely hard to prepare a series of opportunities for students to be able to apply and know their rights, resources, and availabilities relative to applying to college. Chromebook stopped working. We shared that already. Again, a lot of this. So you know, we're down to about 30 questions left, and a lot of these have been asked already. We take driver's ed. That's being answered. There's a question that says, "Will school start at the time when virtual learning begins?" I'm not sure exactly what that means, but what I will tell you is that schedules will be released on Friday, and they will answer all questions relative to when the start and end times of your school day will be. Will hotspots be provided? Yes, we talked about that being provided to Chrome Depot. There's a question that says, is there instrumental classes? Yes, there will be instrumental classes and all specials will be offered. There's a question that says, will Zoom be used or Google Classroom? Will be used in Google Classroom. Is there enough Chromebooks for everyone in the district? There is more than enough for enough Chromebooks in the district. Mm. So the question says, how do we raise school spirit? That's a great question. Uh, we find ourselves in a really difficult spot for all of us relative to our own personal spirit and where we are and where we move to. We are working with our teachers to talk about the social and emotional component of our lives and of our schools as we move forward. And we're hoping to encourage, various levels of school spirit and spontaneity as we move forward. Will schedules be emailed or mailed? Schedules will be emailed and available on Skyward effective Friday. Can teachers penalize? If you there's a question that says, can teachers penalize us for not having our cameras on for Google Meets? The quick answer to that is, excuse me, let me clarify. The schedule will not be emailed. They'll be available in Skyward that you can access. And many of you, your access is your email as we move forward. I just got corrected via my text messages. Thank you, Ms. Golden Cooper. Can teachers penalize us for not having our cameras on for Google Meets? If you choose to opt out of the camera function for Google Meets, no, you will not be penalized. There will be recess and lunch for our students. I'm trying my best, folks. 7:07 to get through as many questions as possible. I have gotten through 277 questions. I'm trying my best to continue to move forward as we try to answer these. There's a question that says, it's a student says I have an IEP and found it very difficult in learning remotely. Will there be any tutoring available? If so, where and how will tutoring be offered? Tutoring be offered with your respective teachers at all your grade levels. And so I would ask you, whether it's your teachers or your guidance counselor, if you would like tutoring free of charge from the district in the evening or on Saturdays, reach out to your guidance counselor or reach out to your school counselor or any of your classroom teachers to be referred for individual tutoring. Great question. I'm a half-time student at Teaneck High School. I also attend Bergen Tech. If Bergen Tech stays closed but Teaneck opens, will I have to go to Teaneck full-time or stay home until it's time for my classes to start in Teaneck? That is a great question. Because there are very few students who are in this boat, I'll ask you to reach out to your guidance counselor, and we'll work with you directly because I just don't have your name here. We will work with you directly to try to answer that question. If a teacher is gone, will there be a substitute? Yes, there will be. A lot of questions now about scheduled, and again, scheduled to be released this Friday. There are lots of questions referencing Summer Bridge program and just making sure they turned in assignments. Just want to make sure we take care of that. There are three questions with regard to sports. All sports for the fall have been put in a moratorium. Will we resume sports, hopefully, in the winter and or spring months? There's a question that says, when do you think we'll be back at school? Honestly, I don't know. I hope soon, sooner than later. I miss you all. I really do. I miss our teachers. I miss our staff. I know that we would all rather be with each other, but the risk of coming together and unfortunately hurting someone is a serious one for that matter. And so I think we should take our time to figure out exactly how we move that forward. There's a question that says, I assume it's a student. If it's a parent, the parent is kind of eavesdropping on our student forum. But what about single parents who have to work? We'll be providing an option for drop-in centers for parents to be able to drop their students off during the weekday, to be able to work and have their students be um, viewed or supervised relative to moving forward. School will remain Monday through Friday. We're down to 29 more questions. I'm trying to answer these. Will mental health services be available to students? The answer is yes. We had several services available last year. We're hoping to keep those services available this year. There's a question that says, will students have homework? And if so, what days? You should plan to have homework every day. There's a question that says, is there instrumental classes? As we shared before, all specials, art, music, instrumental will all be offered. Will gym be necessary? Gym is a state mandate, so it must be offered. Whoa, this is a long question, but it's a really good one. Um, has the district made any outreach to identifying those families who might be academically or technology disadvantaged? It's important to take actions now. So in October 2020, you should not be sending failure notices. Furthermore, besides academic technology issues, we should have language, there are people who have language barriers. Yes, we are identifying those families who have technology and economically disadvantaged issues. We ask those families if indeed they do identify those concerns to let us know, but we are doing that ourselves to be proactive. This question says, will meals be served breakfast and lunch during the periods? Yes, it will. As we did this year, or at the end of this year, we'll be providing lunch and breakfast this time around for students who may be in need of breakfast and lunch. Again, the last few questions are all about scheduling. When is school going to open again? September 8th. There's a question about community service hours. Again, I would ask you all to wait until the high school town hall to be able to answer that question, Mr. Valdez. Will gym be recorded, or will we need to do gym related assignments with workouts thrown in there here and there? Um, you should probably anticipate gym being both a mix of pre-recorded and live instruction as you move forward. Again, classes will be released on Friday in schedules. Question about instrumental music. Again, those schedules will be released on Friday. Supply list we release in the course of the next few weeks. The answer to winter sports. We are starting virtual. The virtual option will only be for the first marking period. We will evaluate towards the end of the first marking period whether or not extend to the second marking period. How will winter sports be handled? We will evaluate that on where we are in the first marking period and where the state and the county is based on how we move forward. At this stage, I've answered 341 questions. As we move forward, it probably doesn't feel that way, but I certainly feel that way. Any other questions as we move forward?
Dr. Irving, there was one question I think that came in before you joined. Somebody asked if we will have field day this year.
If we'll have field day. At this point in time, the quick answer to that is we're not sure. We're trying our best to try to preserve as many components of the school experience as possible, but it depends on just where we are, and so we'll make that decision as we move forward. There's a question that says, will cheerleading no longer be needed? We always need cheerleaders. We always need support, but cheerleaders will not be needed for the fall. They may be needed for the winter or for the spring. All right. Whew. Well, I want to thank you all so much for logging in tonight and asking your questions. These been a lot of questions as we move forward. I am going to, just say again, thank you to Terry Corallo, my Chief of Staff and Director of Communications. I want to thank Mohammed Saleh, who's our Director of Communications, as we move forward. There have been a lot of questions asked, 345 to be exact, and we've tried our best to answer those as best as possible. There'll be more opportunities for you all to communicate with your building principals as you move forward. I ask you all, please stay safe, stay well. We'll be in touch with you over the course of the next, same weeks. Thank you for the folks who've signed on tonight, and hopefully we'll see each other soon. Godspeed, and I wish you all a great evening. Thank you so much, everyone.